This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition Safe Network. We are recording this for our own purposes and actually, our own purposes, and we'll be sharing it on our website. This goes beyond just notes. So we'll get started very shortly. Give it a moment for a few more people to come in. We had a lot of people register. There's Amy. Just realized I was off camera. Okay.
Paul?
Yes.
There are a number of people that are asking for AI note taker. So just announce that in addition to recording, people are doing AI note taking.
Okay. So we are going to be allowing folks to use the AI note taker.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Hi, Amy. I've got your slides. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I just figured it's easier if you could do it versus me.
Yep. Okay. Well, again, my name is Paul Mickiewicz, and thank you for joining the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition Safe Network. We have these little gatherings online every month or so. We try to find a topic that is useful and helpful to our bike and walk friendly community advocates, folks trying to make biking and walking a lot more fun and safe in our respective communities. And I love that we have some, I'll call them ringers here, who are doing things in their local communities and are also in the business. It just shows the passion that we all have for this kind of work. So thanks for joining us. We have a few more people we are recording, so hang in there with us. My name is Paul Mickiewicz, and in addition to helping manage this safe network and working with folks kind of one-on-one and in local communities, we will be able to do some bike education, a little bit of on the bike training in communities. So if you're interested in having an event somewhere in the state, let me know. I'll see if I can help you out there. There is something to be said for doing training on the bike. We're also finding a lot more interest in and concerns about e-bikes. So there's a need for training on e-bikes, and we'll be working with that as well. Deborah, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words on behalf of the organization?
Sure. I'm Deborah Kagan. I'm the executive director of the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition, and I want to welcome everybody. We've got a really great group this morning. As Paul said, the intention of these webinars is to help empower those of you who are working in your local communities to make your streets safer. And we do that both with webinars. We do that with working with you locally. So if you have a group locally that you would like us to help you do some programming, work with your local municipality. Paul is our program manager for the Safe Network, which is the Streets Are for Everyone network. We also work on trails, and Paul, maybe this is a good time also to mention the we now have yard signs for the safe passing law. So all of you may be aware that New Jersey has one of the strongest safe passing laws in the country, which was passed in 2022. There hasn't been a lot of state level information about it so far. We have done some outreach from the coalition, and we do have support from the Highway Traffic Safety to do some of that education work. We have recently gotten yard signs that we can give you out for free that say minimum passing is for 4 feet. And Paul will be helping to distribute those. If you're interested in yard signs, please put that information in the chat. And also a reminder that the new MUTCD, which is the manual that all of the regulations around street signage complies with, now includes a sign that local municipalities and counties can use that says 4 foot minimum for passing. So we're getting some new tools that we can use to help educate the public on the safe passing law. So thank you, everybody, and glad you're here.
Thank you, Deborah. And we also have updated car magnets that correspond with those yard signs. And I've got a few of Will's Street Smart yard signs as well. So I've got a few of those to share as well. So we still got a few people coming in, but we're going to get started. And I want to thank all the panelists for taking the time out and preparing today to join us. The focus here is trying to make things happen in our local municipalities, going beyond public comment and creating a ruckus and actually getting things done. And a lot of that has to do with policy. So we'll be talking quite a bit about that. And Elise Bremer-Nei is the coordinator for bicycle and pedestrian work on NJDOT. And we would like to welcome Elise. I have a set of slides. I'm going to share the screen here in a second. So we'll do that and share what Elise will be presenting. So here we go. And we will make our way through the panelists, and there'll be short presentations. And then we will be answering some questions or asking some questions. And I want to get some questions from the group as well. So hopefully you can all see the screen. We've still got a few people coming in here. And again, we are recording. So Elise, would you like to?
Sure, Paul. Thank you. And I apologize, everybody. We updated our computer system this weekend, and I have not been able to get the camera online for some reason. So thank you, Paul, for advancing the slides. If you don't know me, my name is Elise Bremer-Nei, and I'm the Section Chief of Bicycle and Pedestrian Planning within the Bureau of Safety, Bicycle and Pedestrian Programs at the New Jersey Department of Transportation. I have worked on bicycle and pedestrian safety and mobility, and by extension on complete streets for over 30 years. As part of today's discussion about how to work with officials and staff to achieve safer streets, I want to talk about complete and green streets policies. They're essential for improving our transportation system and ensuring that all roadway users can navigate the streets safely. So you can have complete streets in your community without a policy, but it's much easier when you have one, and a whole lot easier when you have a good one. So next. The push for complete streets in the early 2000s began over concerns about safety. Bicyclists and pedestrians were dying on US roadways at ever increasing rates, but the percentage of funds being spent on facilities for them did not reflect this. So traffic safety professionals started talking about routinely accommodating non-motorized road users, which is kind of a mouthful, and the term complete streets was suggested as a simple way to convey this message. Safety is a priority for all of our transportation agencies. Next. So recent developments in transportation safety include elements that most of us are now familiar with, and they are interrelated. So you have zero death initiatives like Vision Zero and Towards Zero Deaths. They work toward a goal of zero roadway fatalities. The Safe System approach is a major component of the US DOT's National Roadway Safety Strategy, and it provides a framework to prioritize the safety of all road users, especially the vulnerable ones like pedestrians and cyclists. It aims to eliminate fatalities and severe injuries. And Complete Streets is an initiative that offers practical methods to achieve safer roadways. Complete Streets policies focus on the planning, design, construction, and maintenance of roads that accommodate everyone who needs to use them. Next. FHWA's Safe System approach sets an ethical imperative that no one should die or be seriously injured on the roadways. Now, rather than focusing on trying to change human behavior and prevent all crashes, the Safe System approach refocuses our efforts on anticipating that human beings will make mistakes, and we need to reduce the impact of these crashes to minimize their severity and save lives. So they have 5 system areas, 2 of which, well, we have safe roads and safe speeds, and these are the ones that Complete Streets can address. Next. Initiatives like Complete Streets are important in New Jersey, given the high rates of pedestrian and bicyclist fatalities in our state. Our numbers exceed national averages, and this highlights the urgent need for effective policies and infrastructure at the state, regional, and local level. Next. In case you don't know, Complete Streets are designed for everyone who uses them, including pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, travelers of all ages and abilities. It's about safety, but it also addresses health, environment, economic vitality, and equity. Next. So when you implement Complete Streets, you have to ask 2 questions. Who are you accommodating, and how will you accommodate them safely and comfortably? Next. New Jersey has made significant strides in adopting Complete Streets policies at every level. As of today, we have 1 state policy, 8 county policies, and 181 municipal policies. These policies cover more than half of the state's population, and all of these policies can be found on the NJDOT Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center website, njbikeped.org. So in many ways, New Jersey is a success story for Complete Streets policies, but the quality of the policies varies widely. Next. In 2017, we looked back at the policies that have been passed to see how they were being implemented, and we found some issues. Many times the original language allowed for exemptions by saying things like when possible or if practical. There was a lack of written documentation or public involvement in some places that made it hard to know if everyone was being fully considered. And not having benchmarks in some policies made it hard to track progress and make sure things were being implemented. And in some cases, we found examples of Complete Streets resolutions that probably didn't qualify as policy. Next. So to address these challenges, the New Jersey Complete Streets Working Group, led by Tri-State Transportation Campaign and AARP, was established in 2012 to support municipalities in developing effective and consistent policies. This group of advocates and experts started looking into which towns were effectively moving forward with implementation and which ones were running into difficulties. So they compared policy language from across the country that had extras like checklists. They also spoke to elected officials and champions to identify what the barriers might be. Next. What they found was that language matters. Strong policies are strongly worded. A resolution is an official statement of support using those typical whereas statements. A policy is the process and the actions that are designed to ensure Complete Streets are being considered in all decisions. This can include the use of checklists, but the gold standard is to adopt an ordinance, which is a law that can be enforced and becomes part of a searchable record of municipal regulations. Next. What resulted from this was a guide that provides model language for Complete Streets policies that better address implementation. And when the Complete Streets Working Group presented the draft model policy language to DOT, the department provided the resources to publish the full guide to help counties and municipalities adopt effective policies. In the guide, they also saw an opportunity not just to enhance mobility and safety, but also to contribute to resilient urban environments and better manage stormwater and improve quality of life. The guide provides customizable Microsoft Word versions of the model resolution, policy, and checklists, and it's all available on NJDOT's website. Next, the Word documents give you a fill-in-the-blank approach where you can customize and insert the information that best fits your municipality. Next, for example, in addressing public health and safety, we included whereas traffic crashes are preventable and the only acceptable number of traffic deaths for my town is 0. So all of these have spots where you can insert the name of your town and the situations that work for you. So we addressed not just public health and safety, but we also looked at green streets where you have things like the infrastructure, traffic calming, shade trees, all of this to protect and create a healthier natural and social environment, improve air and water quality, and reduce localized flooding. Next, stormwater management is a vital aspect of the model policy. Because of limited time today, we're going to go over green streets and stormwater management in an upcoming discussion at our next online session, a virtual open house on Wednesday, October 30th. More about that in a minute. We also looked at equity in the model policy. It's a crucial topic in transportation. It's important to ensure fair treatment and resource distribution for towns. We developed language around equity that focuses on low and moderate income areas, and this ensures our policies are addressing long-standing disparities and gets input from all communities. The language was lifted from Governor Murphy's executive order on environmental justice. Next. We looked at accountability. We recommend establishing a complete streets advisory body or designating a committee that already exists to include complete streets in their duties. So this committee would provide ongoing feedback and help comply with municipal policies. We recommend including people like community members and people representing those with disabilities and seniors and youth organizations. All of this can help you make sure that your policy addresses everyone's needs. Next. Another way to incorporate accountability and transparency is to ensure, whoops, I think I got ahead of myself. Consistency with other plans and include complete streets in your other plans. We also list many benchmarks for evaluating progress. You can look at the mileage of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, the number of new street trees, the number of green street practices, and the number of locations and causes of crashes, injuries, and fatalities by every mode of transportation. Next. So many towns adopt complete streets checklists, and based on the ones used at New Jersey DOT, we enhanced the current model checklist to include green streets, equity, and we created a new checklist for maintenance as well. Next, since we released this model policy and guide in 2020, we had a lot of conversations about the checklists. A lot of towns found them very useful, and the reasons for this are that they provide structure, especially during planning board development reviews. They serve as a tool to integrate many modes of transportation and keep the details from falling through the cracks. They communicate expectations to developers for bike, pedestrian, and transit use, and they give a formal way to grant exemptions and specify when they would apply. So how do municipalities use them? They include them in the package of content given to developers as part of planning board review. We also had conversations about advisory committees, and we understand they don't all have resources for yet another committee. So a lot of towns have traffic safety committees or others that could be enhanced to address complete streets. And this body could require developers to submit complete streets checklists with their applications. They could review the checklists and give feedback. They could monitor projects, and they could also review and advise on exemptions. So what can you do in working with your town to make sure that your town is implementing complete streets? You could conduct an audit of municipal policies and plans for alignment with the complete and green streets policy. You could work on updates. You could set benchmarks and track progress. You could update ordinances and review procedures, and you could also pursue grant opportunities to support your initiatives. So now that we've worked with a few towns on adopting the model language, our next steps is to finalize a guide on how to adopt an ordinance. If you would like to review municipalities that already have adopted ordinances and laws, we recommend Trenton, Eatontown, and Red Bank. Next. Another thing we've learned is that our model policy is a living document. So there are updates that are in process right now, such as in January 2023, Governor Murphy signed a bill that mandates DOT to implement a complete streets policy that enhances safety for people with autism and intellectual and developmental disabilities. So new model policy language is in development for that. We also have, oh, okay, there we go. Another update in the model policy would include addressing micromobility, which refers to compact electric and human-powered devices for short distance travel. So that's e-bikes and e-scooters. Incorporating that into complete streets helps create inclusive, flexible, and sustainable transportation options. Updates to the New Jersey Complete and Green Streets model policy are underway. We're going to post them in our New Jersey Bicycle and Pedestrian and Safe Routes to School newsletters when updated policy language is available. So one last thing, sometimes complete streets policy adoption is not in the cards for your municipality. That doesn't mean you don't have a way forward. There are other ways to incorporate complete streets. For example, put them in your municipality's master plan to ensure that long-term development aligns with streets for all users. Ensure that departments such as Public Works, Planning and Transportation consistently apply the principles like the checklist during projects, and develop or update design guidelines that provide clear expectations for developers, engineers, and planners. These approaches embed complete streets principles in the fabric of municipal planning, making sure that your commitment to safe, equitable transportation is upheld at every level. So I know this has been a lot of information. I encourage you to visit NJDOT's website to download the model policy and guide. And remember, one of the ways DOT incentivizes policies is to give extra points on infrastructure grant applications for municipal applicants who have complete streets policies. And next, we have our virtual open house on crafting an effective complete and green streets policy. This is a follow-up to a webinar we held in September. It's going to be a live Q&A session to discuss and troubleshoot policy adoption and how to design safer, greener, more accessible streets for your community. So come with questions about complete streets and how to fund projects. So you can log in at any time between 3 and 5 on Wednesday, October 30th to access the open house at your convenience. Registration is free and there's no need to stay for the full 2 hours. You can scan the QR code or visit the website to register. When you register for the open house, you will find other helpful resources, including info about complete and green streets, sustainable Jersey points, how to contact your regional transportation management association for technical assistance for free, information about DOT complete streets and school zone design guides, and also info on complete streets technical assistance and other bicycle pedestrian grants from NJDOT and our 3 metropolitan planning organizations in New Jersey. So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions or need further information, please feel free to reach out to me, to staff at our resource centers, and go ahead and register for the open house. Thanks.
Wow, that was a lot, Elise. Thank you so much. And that really kind of cues things up for our 3 panelists that will have experience working in their respective communities doing this kind of work. So I'd like to introduce Sean Meehan. Sean is works with the Allen M. Voorhees Transportation Center, but we all live somewhere, right? And he lives in Highland Park, and he's gotten involved in this work as a citizen. So Sean, if you'd like to, I'm going to stop sharing here.
All right.
If you would like to share a little bit how you got involved and your experience kind of on a local level, we'd love to hear your story.
Sure. I have a very short presentation about my committee and what we do. So I'll just go through that quickly. So hi, everybody. I'm Sean Meehan. I'm the co-chair of the Highland Park Safe Walking and Cycling Committee. We call ourselves SWAC locally. So SWAC is a mayor-appointed all-volunteer committee established by ordinance to be up to 25 members, which I have nowhere near that many. I'd love to have 25 members. The ordinance establishes that we have a council liaison, which has been critical to our success. And it also establishes that we have a police department liaison, which has also been a great asset to our group to get insight into other things, other efforts going on within the community. So the goal of SWAC is to advise, review, and monitor the implementation of policies and programs affecting travel on foot and by bicycle within Highland Park, and also between our neighboring communities and Rutgers University. So SWAC grew out of a local Complete Streets Advisory Board that helped pass our borough Complete Streets policy. So that group passed our initial policy, which is quite old now, and then it kind of didn't have a purpose anymore. And people really didn't want to let go of that momentum that had built up. And that kind of translated into, becoming our group. Okay, so just a little bit about what we've done so far, what's worked. So we have found a lot of success with planning and using those plans to apply for funding. It's been critical to our success. We developed the Highland Park School District Travel Plan and the Highland Park School Bike Assessment to document pedestrian and bicycle needs around our schools. So using the data in these plans, we applied for and received 2 Safe Routes to School grant awards, as well as free design assistance from NJDOT to implement those grants. We also applied for and received a local technical assistance grant from NJDOT to develop a pedestrian and bicycle master plan for the borough. So this plan is the backbone of the vision we have for our community moving forward, and it has been adopted into the borough master plan. We also try to do as many community events as we can, talk to people, find out about their concerns, see what's going on. So we sponsor things like bike rodeos, walk to school days, and we've done a couple pop-up bike lane demonstrations. So one of the other interesting things that's been great is the ordinance that established SWAC also specified that we get to review development applications before the planning board and advise them regarding bicycle and pedestrian issues. So this has really allowed us to have an influence on some new development. The town's pretty much built out, but when something new does come in, we get to review it from a bike ped perspective and voice our concerns. So it's been great to see some of the things we've recommended actually be put in place. So what's next? Again, I think our public outreach and public events have been vital. We want to make sure we're connected to the community. We know what their concerns are and that we're doing what we can to help alleviate their concerns about walking and biking. So just about any community event in Highland Park, we have a table at where we can talk to people, introduce ourselves, get some feedback from them. So it's allowed us to have some real discussions with our neighbors and to help them also better understand our projects and what we're hoping to do. So, many criticisms are often based on misunderstanding. So these have been great ways for us to have two-way conversations. So listen to people, but also tell people, what we're working on and why we've been doing it. So we also plan to move forward by focusing on the implementation of our bike ped plan. So our borough administrator is a huge ally and has been looking for different opportunities to implement aspects of the plan among regular things, even just regular, road resurfacing, different ways we can start doing things at once. If you look at the whole plan, it seems like, oh my God, that would take forever. But if you break it into pieces, it's a lot easier to implement this stuff. So some of the bigger projects in the plan where, identifying funding for, applying for funding. So that's kind of the vision for the future. So related to what Elise was just saying too, we're also looking to update our complete streets policy. So as I mentioned at the beginning, that's kind of how we got started. So we're getting back to our roots and our policy is quite old at this point. So we're looking to follow the new model that Elise was talking about. And there's been some support for an ordinance. So that's what I'm hoping we get to. I'd really love to have this passed as an ordinance. And we're hoping that SWAC would be the Complete Streets Advisory Board. All right. So that's basically an introduction to who we are and what we've been doing. And I'd be happy to answer any questions later. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Sean. I would like to get some questions in a little later. Now we're going to move on to Candace. And Candace Faust is council member in Eatontown, which was referenced by Elise as having one of the stronger policies and some great success. So Candace, I invite you to share your story. And I love the involvement you had on various committees before getting to becoming elected as a council member. And we cannot hear you if you are talking.
Nope, I was just pulling up my stuff there.
Okay.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me here to kind of discuss how Eatontown's worked with our Complete Streets initiatives. So I'm a lifelong resident of my town, and I served on multiple committees before kind of being deemed as like the Complete Streets lady in my town. So I was a chairwoman of my Shade Tree Commission, our Community Garden Committee. I was vice chair on our Zoning Board of Adjustment, and I was on the Recreation Advisory Committee and Traffic Advisory as well. And I am the co-founder of our Complete Streets group in town. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys know how it kind of started for us. It was when we were doing our 2017 master plan re-examination. So groups from a lot of those committees that I was basically talking about before, formed a planning board like subcommittee to kind of make sure that we weren't missing anything in this master plan. And through those conversations, multiple groups had stressed this concept of connectivity. So that same year, I was also at the League of Municipalities, and I had taken a course on Complete Streets. So now I kind of knew the term, and so we were able to kind of move forward with the implementation and getting these resolutions and stuff together. So in 2018, we formed our group by resolution, and very much like Sean had mentioned how they created, different membership. We have membership from our Shade Tree Commission, Traffic Advisory, Environmental, our Beautify Eatontown group, and our Historical Committee, and also the Zoning Officer and Recreation Director members. So it's kind of like a wide array, but it was a lot of those people who were advocating at the master plan re-examination for this concept of complete streets. And in 2019, we were having multiple discussions. Leanne Von Haven, I saw Elise on the Zoom here. So we were having lots of conversations with them about eventually what would be that completing green streets for all policy ordinance. So through meetings and discussions with our groups, we eventually passed our completing green streets policy ordinance on May 22nd in 2019. And we also re-examined it and increased our membership in 2020, and we added a section for advocates and priority communities. So like Elise had really mentioned, you want to make sure that, everybody's included in the decision making. So I know a lot of times the big thing that happens with municipalities is whether it be the professionals or the advocates or the people that are higher up who are going to be passing these ordinances and checklists, they think it's very cumbersome or it's a lot to handle. But to be honest with you, if any of you have read ordinances and now are getting used to the language, it's just a lot of language. It's really nothing to be scared of. As a matter of fact, Elise had mentioned that with the checklist, it kind of helps alleviate a lot of problems when you're at these different boards, whether it be the planning or zoning board, because it allows our professionals and board members, to advocate with this stuff and not having to remember to ask certain questions at each and every meeting. So that way, heaven forbid, you forget to mention that you wanted sidewalk. You always say that you want sidewalks at a particular, on these applications, but you forgot that one time. This checklist helps it so there are no, it takes the human error out of the equation. So I find this extremely helpful. And recently, we even upgraded our ordinance one other time because we were having an issue with applicants having their attorneys argue that they shouldn't have to fill out the checklist, that they didn't need to fill it out. And they'd write a 5-page memo, their attorney would write, on how they shouldn't have to fill it out when it would take less time to fill out the checklist than create said memo, which is absolutely ridiculous. So recently we did just pass an amended ordinance, making it clear that there are absolutely no exceptions. It's a short checklist. You have the professionals already. They're looking through this stuff. So there's really no excuse to not fill it out. And so this just goes to show you that it's kind of okay. Your first go at things is never going to be 100% accurate. So you're always going to be growing and changing and doing things that, will help your certain initiatives move along. So there's a look at the checklist. So I also wanted to state that, so Smart Growth America released its report on best complete streets policies in 2023, they do every year. And Eatontown actually scored 13th in the nation and first in New Jersey. And yeah, it was a great thing. And a lot of this has to do with people like Leanne and Elise and people who were on this Zoom presenting to you because they had been, very knowledgeable and pushing these initiatives and educating the groups. So I guarantee you that in the future, a lot of you guys are going to make this list because you're all jazzed up from this Zoom call and you're going to be learning a ton of stuff and reaching out to us and getting an ordinance going together or fixing little things that come up in your ordinance. But I did want to mention that the importance of these ordinances and the importance of these rankings and stuff, your hard work does pay off. It ends up getting you that funding for these projects, and that's the most important part, right? You start with these little projects, you get some success, but eventually you want to move on to bigger ones. And you want to have respect for the volunteers and the elected officials around you. So it really goes a long way when you have a great ordinance and all the stuff put into place so they can see it actively working well within the community. So we had won a couple different grants in the beginning, a $3,000 Get Active grant where we put a stone dust pathway at our Wampum Park. You see some before pictures there. And then bam, look at that after shot, right? So this is one of those small feel-good products, like I was telling you guys, that get the community very excited because people should be able to walk in your Veterans Park. People should be able to see, a lovely piece of land and walk and move around. And this is something that, a wheelchair people can have access to. So making that access for everyone is extremely important, and people really get behind that. Another one that we got was a Complete Streets Technical Assistance Grant. That was $10,000. That was through Sustainable Jersey and Voorhees Transportation Center and North Jersey Transportation Authority. And that ended up getting us our final product, which was the Eatontown Greenway. So this helped include a couple different important parts of our town. It linked to Wampum, Walcott, our Arboretum, but it also, the route passes through our Borough Hall, Eatontown Library, our Community Center, our Historic Museum. So it was very significant in linking certain parts of our town, our northern parts. But I also wanted to say that something like this is also extremely important, and I believe in the long game because wouldn't you know, now I'm on council. This was when I was an advocate, but we're looking to replace or renovate our Borough Hall. So now's the perfect time to put stuff like this in our plan and make sure that as we're doing little things with our parking lot or that road behind our Borough Hall, that we're changing it from a two-way to a one-way street, that we're implementing those bike paths, that we're making place-making areas. So that's exactly what we're doing. And those are the kind of discussions that we've been having. Not only that, but we're in the process of a downtown redevelopment plan, which is this area. So imagine we didn't have plans like this, you know, active and that we were working on. We would have come to the eventual downtown redevelopment plan, and you wouldn't have really had a plan, and you'd be paying your professionals that much more when you could just apply for a sustainable Jersey grant. So it's very important to keep your eye out. I know Elise had mentioned a couple different grants down the pipeline that are coming up. So just keep your eye out and apply for these grants. You're not going to win every single one. Lord knows I haven't. But it's very important to just kind of keep your mind active with the things, you know, that are important to you. As of today, our town has won close to $900,000 in Complete Streets Initiative grants, because we just tried to apply for anything and everything. But like I said, you don't win every single one. You just have to keep at it. We also did a bus stop inventory. We keep a street inventory. So that's just something our membership does on the side to make sure that our streets are in good condition, that we add them to the road program if they're not. The bus stop is missing plexiglass. That's important to keep our travelers and our residents in a safe area, you know? So we should be providing that for them. I also did want to mention that it's, you know, I know we always get so excited about resolutions, ordinances, policies, grants, inventories. That's the nerds in all of us here, I think. But an important thing is support and buy-in and having fun. And that's how you get that other support through speaking with your community members. So we do a lot of different events. We did a logo contest for our Eatontown Greenway. So now our signs, you know, are all around that area. Here, that's that bike inventory and the list. But here are some events that we do. We do a bike rodeo. We've done a historically fit walk. We did a walk with emergency service. We're doing a moonlight walk series. We're actually having our second round of our moonlight walk series. I believe it's next weekend. That was a big hit. So I suggest if you guys have lanterns and you know some scary stories, do that in your town. That's a great way to get people all jazzed up during Halloween time. At Community Day, we have our reflector bracelets that we give away. We have a gigantic map that draws people in. But like I said, you know, it's not all the great and fluffy stuff all the time. You don't win everything, but I think it's also very important that you guys also learn from your failures, like we have. You're writing everything down. You realize that this grant isn't exactly what you thought it was, right? You reach out to a council member. They're not all jazzed up about what you're talking about, but that's your way of finding different ways to connect and figure out what works for them, right? So it's important to go to community events, go to meetings, create these connections. That's why I was successful as an advocate, and I like to think that that's probably the reason why I'm a councilwoman now. So I just wanted to thank you guys. I'm definitely here for some questions. So I hope to speak to a few of you a little bit later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Candace, for that. I like that crash and burn picture.
Yeah.
So we're getting through a lot, and we're going to get to some questions here, but I think this is perfect timing now to move to Amy Veach. Amy, I'm going to share your slides, and I just want to share that Amy has been in this work for a long, long time. How long have you been doing this work, Amy?
Since December of last year.
And has
Not quite
been
a
doing
year.
a fantastic job. So let me get to your slides here.
All right. So first off, I want to
Your
thank.
slides.
Okay.
Hang on. There we go. That's not even your slides. There we go. All right.
I still don't see anything yet.
Oh, you don't. Oh.
Does anybody else see anything?
No.
There we go.
There we go. All right.
Just make it, yeah,
Sorry about that.
beautiful. All right. So thank you to Bike Walk Coalition and for all of the other presenters here. I feel a little like a newbie to the whole scene. Like Paul said, I've just really started becoming an advocate this last year. And so I feel like I've been doing a deep dive into learning about complete streets, complete and green streets, and policy and the way the municipality works. And I began this journey, I think, through just where I live on my corner. There were a lot of accidents, and I would show up at town council meetings and really push for safer streets. And thanks to other advocates in Montclair, the bike bus, they were phenomenal at mobilizing people and community members. And I went to my first town hall meeting thanks to them, because they were really trying to get people in front of the councilors and the mayor at the time. So Montclair is a smaller township. We have six square miles. There's about 40,000 residents. And wait, can you go back? That's good. And last year, the township council at the time passed a resolution to create a Vision Zero task force. And this Vision Zero task force is our working body to push forward a lot of these ideas and policies. So really our vision as a task force and Montclair Vision Zero is committed to ensuring everyone can walk, bike, or drive safely without the risk of death or serious injury. And our goal is simple: 0 traffic-related deaths or serious injuries. And 0 is the only acceptable number of deaths on our roadways. So you can go ahead and forward it on, Paul. This task force is a collaboration of the mayor. We have 2 council members. We have the multiple township departments, including the planning board, planning department, community service and public works, the engineering company that we outsource our engineer work with, the police department, fire department, board of education, health department, the Essex County Commissioner, the county engineer and planner, our Montclair Business Center, and additional community groups. So we have a representative from the Civil Rights Commission, someone representing the seniors in our community, a person representing those on the Disabilities Committee, and also advocate groups, including Bike Walk Montclair, the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition, and members of the community themselves in the different districts, so wards 1 through 4. And I am on the task force as a representative of Ward 1. So if you want to proceed. And really, as a task force, our biggest mission is to be diligent about data-driven decision-making, implementing proactive and not reactive policies, procedures, and plans, and really working together to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries, while increasing safe, healthy, equitable mobility for all. And Elise did a really good job talking about the safe systems approach and complete street guidelines, as well as the policy. And I have to say, as somebody who was, as a resident, I knew nothing about any of these things. I had no idea that there was so much work being done within the last 20 years in Montclair from fellow advocates and from community members. Our chair of the Vision Zero Task Force is Laura Torchio, and she has been actively pushing, as well as Paul and Deborah, advocating for complete streets on our roads. So I think before I was really involved on the task force, or before I knew that much, I was sleuthing on the internet and I was trying to read everything I could. And I realized there had been so much, that there was already a safe implementation plan, that there had been studies done, that there had been proposed bike lanes put together. Like there was a lot of work there. And yet when I would go out on the streets, I would see no sign of it. And it was really discouraging to me. I just thought there's got to be something more. And I think it wasn't until I became more actively involved and I realized the process and how nuanced and complicated and how many layers there are that it really made me, I think, become even more of an advocate for Vision Zero, even more of a cheerleader for the process, for complete streets, and for making that active change, changing our systems. So this slide here really looks at the plan and the timeline that our chair of the Vision Zero Task Force put together. And she broke it up into 3 primary phases and goals that we were trying to do in our 18th month time span as a committee or task force. The first one has been developing and revising, updating our complete and green streets policy. Montclair has a policy that was implemented in 2009, and it's really I think the exceptions are longer than the actual policy itself. It's maybe 1 line, and it really lacks a lot of teeth and accountability and process. So the first 6 months we've been working on revising and editing and putting together a stronger policy. The second phase has been focused on demonstration projects and community outreach. And the third phase, which we're beginning to work on right now, is working on our action plans. So if you want to proceed on, Paul. So I think some of the things where I feel like we've seen successes and where I've been, it's satisfying to see where the real change is. When I started this work showing up at town council meetings a year ago, they were in the process of passing school zones and reducing the school zone speed limit. It's taken a long time for the actual follow through, but I'm happy to say that now we have school zones that are 20 miles per hour, and the signs have started to go up, and it's something I'm really thrilled to see. You can proceed on, Paul. Another thing that I feel like everybody has kind of, both Sean and Candace have talked about the outreach to the schools and building up that relationship with the schools. And I feel like as a parent, I think this is also one of those things that really got me involved with this advocacy work. And we've begun putting together surveys, school surveys that we've distributed through our liaison with the Board of Education to really get feedback directly from parents and caregivers. And we're in the process of putting together another survey that will circulate among the high school students and the older students themselves. And we'll be able to use this data to inform demonstration projects and to make a more comprehensive plan about where we can make changes around specific schools. So if you can proceed, Paul. And this is our updated school zone mapping. And the survey kind of grew out of the process of this school zone and putting the school zone together. And I realized as I talked informally to different parents in different schools, they had the best feedback and the best advice. And I was really inspired by just those one-on-one conversations to make it a much bigger survey and a much bigger outreach. So if you want to proceed. And another thing that we've been working on with the task force is putting together our first pilot projects. I think what's been difficult about the work that we're doing now is that a lot of the township the budgets and the plan, the repaving schedule, everything has already been done and set for 2024. And when we were formed as a task force, we didn't really have a chance to be a part of the beginning of their plans or what they were working on. And I feel like this is something we've been able, the township has been really good at working with us to add in these painted curb extensions on 2 different streets and intersections. And hopefully this will be the beginning of many, many more. And it's all a journey and a process. So thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to present. And I'll pass it on to you, Paul.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was great. And again, I really appreciate all the work you've done for the task force. And you are a great example of someone who was not real tuned into all this work and jumped in with both feet, both hands, everything, and has made a real contribution. So I just want to echo a couple things I heard. One, and I really appreciate you mentioning, and Amy, you know, the bike bus and getting people to public comment. And Candace, you mentioned, you know, having fun activities. That's an important piece. Everything can't be just all policy. And it's really helpful to have engaging activities that bring the communities together. You know, Sean, you mentioned activities as well. It's great to have that. And Candace, you mentioned, I heard the long game. You got to be in it for the long game because these things take time. And, you know, Amy mentioned, you know, we had these ideas that with the Vision Zero task force, but the budget and everything, plans were already set. So these, even some of the changes we've made were sort of slipped in at the last moment. So we're happy about that. But I want to ask each of you, Sean, Candace, and Amy, your thoughts about the policy and the pushback that you might get and how you've handled that in your own municipalities, the pushback that you might have gotten in creating stronger policies, or as you said, Sean, you're looking to create an ordinance. I'll start with you, Sean.
We haven't really gotten any pushback yet regarding the ordinance. The ordinance is taking a bit longer, but like Candace said, long game. And I want the ordinance. I'm willing to exercise some patience and kind of wait for that to happen. So we're still in the process, but I haven't really gotten any negative feedback. One of the things I do want to say, though, because this is one of my lessons learned, was you have to make sure you record positive feedback. So one of the first things we did was a pop-up bike lane, and I had people riding in my pop-up bike lane all day telling me it was the greatest thing and they loved it. Well, a very small minority in town didn't love it, and they were very loud. So I must have talked to 20 or 30 people who told me it was great. I didn't get their names. I didn't really know them. I didn't have as much rebuttal. So these very loud 2 or 3 people who didn't like it got heard, and it did slow us down for a little while. So my advice to anyone is record that positive feedback as well, and make sure you do have people who can then go to these meetings with you and be like, well, you know, I live on First Street and I liked it. So that was just an important lesson learned. And the public outreach is really vital. You don't want to do anything in a vacuum. You want to make sure your neighbors know what you're planning.
Thank you, Sean. And you reminded me, if Candace and Amy, if you could think about what you might have done differently along the way. So Candace, what are your thoughts about your experience with policy and ordinance?
So I've kind of been working on the policy like from the beginning. And like I said, I had some really good people, you know, talking to me, you know, Elise, Leanne, you know, I had spoken to a lot of different advocates, and my group and our professionals in the borough. But it's also knowing, you know, I guess the power structure of everything, not stepping on toes. So I made sure that I wasn't going to get negative feedback, because everybody that I put in the room was somebody extremely agreeable. So it wasn't political. It wasn't, this isn't, unfortunately, sometimes us as advocates get a bad name because, sometimes we want to be the loudest thing in the room to try and move forward our initiatives. But sometimes it's, like, what's the best way to get bees? It's the honey, So it was about making those connections. And I feel that's why I didn't get as much blowback. But I think when people were talking about policy, the biggest complaint was you look at an ordinance and it's cumbersome and the language is, it's a lot to handle. And especially, now I have experience looking at those things. But not everybody sees that and is okay with the lawyer lingo. So it's about breaking it down into simple terms and explaining to them on their level or what's important to them. So most people may not care about sidewalks, but they care that their kids are going to walk on a sidewalk to get to a bus, the safety of their children. Just like some council members don't want to spend any money, but hey, look, we got this grant and that grant and that grant that was already funded. So then when you go for a matching grant, you can be like, look, I already got you all this money. I'm asking for something back here, that you kind of respect the journey and we're all in this together. And then they're signed on for it too. So it's about finding ways to make that connection so that, you don't get as much blowback.
Thank you. Thank you. Amy, I know we're kind of in the process here.
Yeah, I feel like we are in action and in the journey. So I feel like I started with the task force working on the policy working group. So I was doing a lot of research. I was reading a lot of different policies. I was reading the model policy and putting it all together. And I feel like it informed my kind of my direction and the work I'm doing with the task force because I have had that deep dive into it. But I think as we talk to the township departments, as we talk to different council members, and I should say that in the process of developing this policy, we had an election and our entire town council and mayor was replaced. So we had done a lot of work and we had a lot of community advocates coming to town councils and just giving really impassioned pleas to the council at the time to move this forward and to implement it and real support and a lot of that got sort of lost with the new council because they weren't in the room at that moment and they didn't have the son of one of our most recent residents who was killed almost a year ago in this month, giving this like heartbreaking and kind of appeal. Like they didn't hear that. And I think for us, it's about bringing that momentum back to create the urgency in the policy again and bringing the public back in and bringing people forward to really talk about how important it is to them on a personal level. So I think that's one major aspect. And I feel like working with the township departments has been great. They have been so helpful in developing our policy. So I would say definitely talk to your representatives or the people who can best inform you to make your policy work within the government itself. So the director of planning, our community services and public works, our engineer, the police department, like everybody, we all sat in the room together and I felt like that was one of the best and most important meetings that we had because everything they brought and all of their concerns and all of their questions just made the policy better. And so I would say bring everybody into that conversation. And to touch on something that you said, Candace, about their fear of the money and the cost. I feel like that was something you hear a lot. And especially from the first, the original mayor, when we started this policy, that was his thing, budget and money. And like, there's already this resistance and pushback because they're afraid that it's going to be millions of dollars and it's going to take away from the budget itself. So I think there's an element of educating them on how inexpensive a lot of these things are and how doable they are and how uncumbersome it is. And that it's really like our painted curb outs, our director of community service has been phenomenal. And, you know, it's like he made it happen. They did it. And it wasn't a big expense. It wasn't an extra add-on. It was just, oh, we're repaving the street. Why don't we add this painted curb out? So I think those are the successes and those are the things that you really need to like put forward when you're getting the resistance, because it sounds so big. It sounds so scary. It sounds like this massive change. And well, it is, it really isn't. And I think that's what we're trying to sell. And that's what we're trying to advocate for.
Great. Thank you. I know we've gone a little over, and I want to just see if there's any questions, any burning questions, if people can raise their hand and their virtual hand. They have a question that we might pose to the group here. Really appreciate it. Yes, there's a lot of language, but after you get through all that jargon, it's not so bad, right?
Well, we're waiting to see if anybody's got their hand up, and please ask some questions. We want to hear from everybody what you're going through to either get a policy approved or even how to get together a group to start talking about it. So while you're thinking of that, to raise your hand, I'm just going to mention another aspect of this, which is the local safety action plans or Vision Zero action plans that are happening at the county level. So on our task force in Montclair, we actually have representation from the county as well. Given the fact that so many of our streets in local municipalities where a lot of the fatalities and serious injuries happen are on county roads, it is important that we're working with and at the county level to implement these action plans and the complete street plans. So the local safety action plans are happening just about in every county, whether it's being funded by the metropolitan planning organizations like NJTPA, DVRPC, or SJTPO, or at just a county level. Some of the counties have applied directly for funding to do their Target Zero or local safety action plans. So some of them are just starting, some of them, like Hudson County, are almost completed, but it is important to bring in the county into the municipal advisory, it's our task force, and integrate what's happening at the county level safety action plan with what you're planning to do locally. There's a way for us to work together so that we make sure that the county roads are part of our plan and that the county is aware of the municipal plan. And sometimes we assume that's communication is happening just because we think it should, but it isn't always. So I encourage everybody to actively incorporate and invite members of the county and vice versa for the county to make sure that they're reaching out to advocates and residents in the local municipalities for input on the county level local safety action plans. And I think NJTPA I know has a survey out where you can go on a map and make comments on it. So everybody who wants to do that from any of the North Jersey counties, you just go on their website. There's a survey where you can go on a map and put your comments in for the local safety action plan.
Thank you, Deborah. And please check out the links. Folks are adding, Johan added our Safe Network. Elise started by saying there is the webinar, the open house, Complete Streets open house coming up on October 30th. So that's something else to look forward to from 3 to 5. A lot of great resources there. You don't have to start from scratch. Great templates. and materials to use. And we look forward to seeing that stronger ordinance guide language coming out at some point. I know there's other materials that are in the works, a electric bike guide manual. So lots of things happening here. I want to thank our panelists again, Elise, Sean, Candace, Amy, thank you so much for coming on. If there aren't any questions, we try to keep this to an hour. So I want to thank everyone for signing on and joining us. Please share your questions that you have for topics, possible topics for the future. We want to keep doing these webinars. And I did see a number of folks saying they're interested in some of the yard signs. So thank you very much. And we have those magnets, so we'll find a way to I'll have just different distribution sites connecting with bike shops, local bike shops. So I'll put you in touch with the bike shops that I connect to be little hubs for these things. So thank you very much. And
One last comment.
Yes.
If anybody isn't aware, there is a bill at the state level called the Target Zero Commission Bill. That bill, there's a coalition that we are part of, the Vision Zero New Jersey Alliance, that has many different organizations on it. We've been working with legislators for almost 2 years on this bill. The bill has passed the Assembly floor almost unanimously. It is now in Senate committee. We have a letter on our website that you can sign to send to your senator to tell them you support the bill. The bill will create a commission of 13 cross-agency members to do exactly what we're talking about, hopefully, which is to develop a safety action plan for the state. So along with the county roads, we know a lot of our injuries also and fatalities, high fatality injury corridors are on state roads. And we are looking to the state to help give us leadership on creating safety as a priority in our policies on our streets. So everybody, njbwc.org, a pre-written letter. All you got to do is sign it with your name and email, and it will be sent to your senator to show support. And hopefully we'll get this passed this year. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone, enjoy the continued fabulous weather we've been having. Get out there and ride a bike.
And be safe.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
safe. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, thanks.